Okay, picking up where we left off, we were just finished tweaking the way you can make a cell look, and it's almost identical to all the rest of the Microsoft products. You light up whatever it is you're trying to change, and you can change the font, you can change the style, you can change the color, you can change the justification, just like we've been doing all the rest of the times. Okay, now I'm going to show you something that's a little weird. See how this is not very tight? There's an awful lot of white space here. So I want to change the size of one of those columns. Okay. So if I move the mouse up here and I move really slowly, when it gets right there in between, I get this little divider guy, and that means if I hold the mouse button down, I can stretch or pull these columns. Okay, isn't that pretty cool? Well, there's another cool way you can do it, and that is you can tell it to automatically size. What it's going to do, it's going to look at the... So let's say, for example, I'm going to spell out the word October so that one of them is a little bigger than the other now. So, right? So how big should this thing be? Well, the cool thing you can do is you can put the mouse right there and double-click. And what that'll do, it'll look at all the stuff that's in your list and go, well, it looks like it should be at least this big. So it's automatically going to size it for me. Isn't that pretty cool? So you ready? Here we go. Click, doink. And so it made it big enough for the word October to fit. Okay. So, well, maybe, you know, if you double click on that guy, that worked. What happens if I lasso multiple columns? So again, I'm going to lasso the entire column. I'm not going down here doing this, okay? But I'm lassoing the entire column. I just clicked on column A and then I'm just dragging across. And now that I have them all selected, I'm going to double click. Doink, and it did them all. Okay, now I use this a lot. I'm typing stuff in, I got it the way I like it, and so then I go in there and I just lasso all of the columns and double click on one of the dividers. Doesn't matter which divider you click on, and it'll automatically apply that adjustment. It'll look at every single one. So let's prove it. Let's go in here and make this guy, you know, a lot bigger. We'll make this one. Now see, ooh, this is a good example. Well, what the heck is those little hash marks? You know, what the heck does that mean? Well, that's an indication that I cannot show you the value because I don't have enough room. That's what the little hash marks mean. Because it's got to show you something, but they don't want to give you like half of a number. That would be really confusing because, you know, you couldn't tell if you're looking at a whole number or half a number, right? So this is a good thing that they use hash marks because it tells you something is wrong. Because if you didn't see the whole number, you know, you're going to say, oh, well, the answer is, you know, 200. Well, no, it wasn't 200. It was 20,000. Okay. So how do I fix that? Well, I'm just going to go, I'm going to either double click on this guy right here, or I'm going to light them all up and double click. Doink. Okay, cool. So, automatically sizing columns. Cool, I like it. You can do the same thing here. Let's say I typed a bunch of stuff in here. You know, October, you know, was a cold month. And I really kind of sort of want on that, so you can't actually tell there's anything there, right? So I'm going to double click this guy. Doink. And you look at that and you go, man, you know, maybe I really want that text to wrap around because that looks dumb. So we're going to do one more little tweaky thing. And I'm going to go into here, click on the cell, and instead of telling the text, this only works for text, by the way, to go all the way on the same line, I'm going to tell it to break. Now, you can't tell it's broken until I squash this guy up a little bit. So let's squash it up a little bit, okay? Now I'm going to tell it that I want it to go to a new line. Okay, so you do this with cell formatting. So I'm just going to go here. I'm going to right-click on this guy. And one of the things you can do is format a cell, okay? And it's basically the same thing as all these options we talked about up here, except it just gives it to you in a slightly different way. I mean, yeah, you could do some of the goofy little buttons. This is one of them. I just tell it wrap text. And doink, it spits it all out for me. That's one way of doing it. The other way is you right-click on this guy and go to Format Cell, and it's going to provide you essentially all this all over again. Everything that you see here, it's going to have. You know, what type of formatting would you want? What type of alignment would you want? And all sorts of, you know, the font and the border and the fill and all the rest of those things. Okay, cool. So wrap text is under alignment as text control, that little guy right there. Okay, so let's say that I did that and I go, oh man, that's not what I wanted. Let me just make this thing go back to October because that looks pretty dumb. Ooh, kind of cool. Okay. So I want to manually resize one of these guys. I just grab it, drag it just the way you manually resized, right? And if I want it to go back, I can double click on these guys and they automatically go back to the way they were. Okay, cool. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually put a chart into here. But to make this chart make some sense, I'm gonna make these numbers back to kind of halfway normal because I don't want my chart to be crazy. Okay, so well, let's go back to 20. All right, so now I'm back to the original numbers we had. Oh, but wait, let me fix this up like we did it before. Doink. Okay, so here's what I want to do: is I want to insert a chart, and I want to insert it right here or right below. It doesn't actually matter where you put it, but I want to put it someplace. I want to put it like right here. So one way you can do it is pick the location where you want this thing to go and kind of have that in mind. So what I want to do is I'm going to lasso some data. Now I want the headings in here. Let me go. Ooh, let me put a month in here. Okay, month. So I want to lasso all of the data with their headings, and this is important because when I'm building a chart, I could lasso just this piece right here, but it wouldn't have a clue what the hell that $20 was. It wouldn't know. But if I lasso all of this, then when it comes time for me to putting a chart, it would say, ah, that first column is month, that second column is sales, that third column is target. Okay, cool. All right, so here we go. Now that I've got that selected, I'm going to go to the Insert tab because to create one of these little goofy charts, I'm inserting a chart, right? I'm inserting a chart. So I go here and I say, what would you like to do? And you can pick a column chart. That's probably the most common type. I'm going to hit the little guy and it's going to ask me what kind do I want. This is basically called a grouped column. Okay. I don't know what this is going to look like, but let's just give it a whirl. So I'm going to hit this button, doink, and it automatically just took it and went thump, and just threw me a chart smack dab in the middle of my sheet. Isn't that pretty cool? Now it's color coded a few things for me. See, it's got a little blue box over here, a little green box over here, and a little purple box over here. Ooh, maybe there's a little bit of sense to this. So first thing I'm going to do is perhaps I don't want this guy where it is. So if I click on this, right? If I click on this chart area guy on the edges, I can pick him up and move him around. So if you have to, basically you have to pick a blank spot. If you pick something inside, it's going to try to think you're trying to move a bar or move a line. So either pick a blank spot or just pick it on the edge. Okay, to move this guy around. You can stretch him out too. This has got resize handles, like like when we were resizing graphics, right? You can go in here and tweak this little guy, make it bigger, and make it this way. Whoops, sorry. Make it this way. So these charts are actually pretty doggone cool. Okay, so looking at this, I've got this sum column, but I wanted the August to September to October, but I made a mistake. When I lassoed this data, I actually didn't want to get this row here on row 6, so I actually made a mistake. So how do you edit the chart to not include that last column, that last row? Well, there's a cool thing here called select data. That's what we're going to do. We're going to select the data. And so the first thing you can do, ignoring all of this, is I'm just going to go here and reselect over again. I'm going to start here and grab only the pieces that I want. I'm going to leave off that line 6. Cool? And hit OK. And doink, now I've got what I wanted. Isn't that pretty cool? And now we're going to do the part where we're doing formulas. Up to this point, we've been using all this fancy stuff where the machine either inferred that I wanted to do a sum or something like that. And now we're actually going to have to do some formulas because I don't want this to be junk. What I want this to be is the difference between my sales and my targets. I'm just going to call it diff. Okay? So instead of being 20 plus 25, what I really wanted is I want it to be the target minus the sales. So how do you do that? Well, I'm going to click on this cell, and right now this is the contents of the cell. The contents of the cell is equal sign, sum, parentheses, B3 colon C3. What on earth? Well, if I click on this, if I click on the sum, it's not going to show me. If I click inside the little range here, see how it showed this in blue? All right. This is what I'm doing. I'm taking B3, there's B3, all the way to C3. This little colon means a range of numbers, okay? So, I don't want any of that. I want to change it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to erase this formula, okay? Just make it go away. I just lit it up. I'm going to hit the backspace key. So what I want to do now is I want to take the value that's in C3 and subtract the value that's in B3. So what do you think that would be? Well, it starts with all formulas start with an equal sign. So I type an equal sign. And I just type C3 minus B3. That's it. That's all I got to do. Hit the button. Doink. And so now the difference between my sales and my target is $5, which is exactly what I want. Well, I want to do that same thing over here and over here. Now, I'm going to show you a cool trick. Instead of typing that formula over and over and over, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to drag that cell. I'm going to extend that cell. So when I click on, remember we talked about this little board. Remember this little corner, this little square in the corner? That's the kind of the duplicate button. So I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to grab the little duplicate guy and drag this guy down. So what I'm doing is I'm taking that cell and stretching that cell so it's no longer just in D3. It also covers D4, 5, and 6. So I'm going to let go. Doink. And you think, well, that is pretty doggone cool. How in the world did it do that? It knew that I wanted C3 minus B3 here, but how did it know? Well, it's just smart. It knows the formula now is C4 minus B4. And over here it's C5 minus B5. And over here it's C6 minus B6. So it was smart enough to figure out when I grabbed that guy and drug him down that it was going to copy the formula, but not absolutely copy. It's not going to be copying, C3 to minus B3. As it's copying, it's translating. It's saying, I know that you had a formula set up here, and I bet what it is you want is that formula being replicated every single row. Okay, that is pretty doggone cool. So now I actually have a halfway decent chart going here, showing me what my actual sales were versus the target. So, I didn't do all that. Actually, I kind of got this backwards, don't I? Oh yeah, it's okay. So when all said and done, I'm over. Well, what the heck? Let's do this. See, the month that I actually did well came out negative. So apparently I got my math backwards. So let's fix it. Okay? It'll just take a second. Let's go here. All I want to do is make this B3 minus C3. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to do B3 minus C3. So now that one becomes negative. And once again, I'm going to grab this guy. And I'm not grabbing it here because that doesn't do anything. That didn't do anything at all. I have to grab it not on the edge because that would do a move. Remember we did the move before like that? Remember that? Okay, I'm not doing a move. I'm trying to grab it on that lower right-hand corner. I grab this guy and go and let go. Doink. Okay, so cool. I did poorly in August. I did okay in September, and I did kind of sort of okay in October. Alright, so now my chart is actually showing me the difference between my sales, my target, and what the difference is. Pretty doggone cool. Okay, this is probably a good place to stop for the 15-minute mark. We'll pick this thing up again in just a few.